Hey guys, today we have war number 3 here, and for this fight, we were originally supposed to have 7 fights, but I messed up and got the Dark Tide passive on me, so I couldn't take my man thing later. And this was a fairly clean war. First up, we just have this Dragon Man on Hazard Shift. It's not stun immune, so I don't really get displacement. He doesn't really have much of a chance of going to an L3 or anything. Just gonna be a fairly simple Red Hulk fight. And yeah, just want to make sure he doesn't go to an L3 and try to avoid him throwing an L2. If he does throw an L2, it's not the biggest of deals. It'll deal a good bit of block damage, but with all our willpower healing, the block damage isn't really a concern. You know, it's there, but it's not like something I'm super worried about. And we just want to build to our L3, and the L3 should, in theory, end the fight. And at this point, he was probably able to tank up and get to his L2 from that little bit of passive if he decided to stay passive there. So just a bit of poor timing with the power gain and everything. But he decided to immediately throw the L1, thankfully. And the L3 just ends the fight. Like this, Incinerate will just take down and kill him before he can do anything. Very nicely done. Then we have this Airwalker, which is the fight that kind of messes up everything. I was aware that if you dex his L1, you're going to get Dark Tide stuff. But I didn't know it was also on the special too. So I was blocking L1s, trying to just bait mostly L1s this fight. Throwing special 3s for damage, of course, because special 3 will give you the majority of your damage against Resistor, because that Incinerate will bypass Resistor. Well, not really bypass, but it's an energy damage, and you're going to have all physical resists. So, you know, the L3 will be doing good work. And there is an armor break, so you're going to be getting constant willpower healing. So yeah, that's the basic strategy going into this. And it's going very nice at this point. And we're just baiting these L1s. He's playing pretty passive, but thankfully he does end up actually throwing them. Then we just immediately throw our L3 for a good chunk of damage. And you'll see later in this fight, he throws an L2. Just for me being dumb, I could have very easily baited an L1. But we decided to push to an L2 because I'm dumb. I think it's right here. He's being a little passive, and I'm just like, whatever. Throw your L2. And, you know, we could have just blocked it, but instead we get this Dark Tide passive on us. And, yeah, not great. And now you can see I'm taking down a lot of health. Willpower is doing good work, keeping me alive. And we just need to race to that L3 and hope the L3 ends him. Because I really don't want to die to this fight. And yeah, just not a great part. And of course, now that he does have Dark Tide, of course he's going to be throwing these L1s like mad to always have the armor break on. Yeah, and now we just throw our L3. It's whatever. We lose a lot of health, and we lose our Man-Thing fight we were supposed to take with Red Hulk, but not a big deal. The Incinerates and burst damage off of this will end it very nicely. And yeah, not a big deal. Moleman, I don't have a Mystic Power Booster on for this one. Um, but we do have a White Max pre-fight, so we're just going to be taking the fight slow this time. We're still going to be keeping in the stuff with intercepts in mind. And yeah, just a very slow and easy fight. It's not on Mighty Charge or anything, so we don't have to worry about him shrugging the Incinerates after the L3. And should just be a very easy fight. Then we have this Nova. We're just going to be going for mostly L3s here. And trying to avoid being dumb. Because every time I take this fight, I seem to take a bunch of hits. But not today, we have a fairly clean fight here. I was actually meant to pop White Mag's pre-fight here for Mighty Charge. But I just forgot to do that, so we ended up popping it on the next fight instead. Which probably ended up being the better call anyway, because with the Dark Tide against Crumbling Armor, we did end up losing a lot of health to that Magneto on the note after this. But yeah, very simple Nova fight. Not much of an issue if you can just play smart and take it slow. Yep, Dark Tide will interact with the armor break and everything. I was just double checking to make sure it didn't have any other negative effects for this fight in particular. But it will hurt me a lot with those armor breaks, and Magneto gives me some really passive AI in this fight. So we do end up getting several ticks of not Mighty Charge. We do end up getting several ticks of Crumbling Armor damage. But thankfully, Rhulk deals really good damage on this fight because he scales so well with the Fury and everything. So we kill Magneto well before he has a chance to kill me. And yeah, just trying not to get hit. We do have an invuln on for safety because again, I was worried with the not with Mighty Charge. I was worried with the Crumbling Armor that we may have to play a little bit aggressive. But yeah, just taking it slow, trying to avoid Crumbling Armor, man. That's the basic strategy. Back with a Deadly Origin on 53 with Doom. The plan is to throw a Power Start 1 on, and a Mystic Power Booster. And this is going to let me just throw lots of L2s, and the L2s will turn off Stunning Reflection, and I'll be able to get a lot of damage in that small period. And the other thing to keep in mind is since Doom is Shock Immune, you can actually just hit into her evade, because Black Widow Deadly Origin has one of the evades where she can't respond if you do hit into it, which means this is a very safe matchup. It's going to look very scuffed, but, you know, even with all the hits I tanked and how bad I played this fight, there was never a risk of dying, really, which is the thing I like about Doom for this matchup. You can definitely take this with Ghost or with Moleman as well, and they'll handle it very well, but Doom just has that zero risk of dying, which is very nice. And yeah, we're just trying to get to those L2s and getting those evades. It's actually going to give me a lot of willpower healing, so the evades will actually be beneficial, along with giving the extra power to make it easier to push to L2. And here we get that perfect power steal just on time on that L2. As you'll see with the Mystic Power Booster, we get a good amount of power back, and with Polka Dot Power from all those Incinerates, and we're going to just get a fuck ton of damage during this stun vuln. 11k non-crit heavy. Very nice. And yeah, just want to hit into this evade to get rid of that evade. And as you can see, we get some more willpower healing. And just trying to avoid dying, which is pretty hard to do on this fight. We sidestep in the corner to get rid of her evade, which is another thing that Doom does really well here, is with the sidesteps. Can pretty safely do it, because if you do get hit, you're not going to take any damage. And yeah, just keep going for those sidesteps to get rid of the evade. We do end up taking like a lot of hits here, but again, it just doesn't matter with Dr. Doom. There we have the second L2 finally. And we're going to launch this off, and it will deal a lot of damage this time. We got some crits. And yeah, with stun vuln, the fight is almost over. She gets one more L2, and we end up eating it. But as you can see with Doom, him eating that L2 just straight up didn't matter. And yeah, we end the fight above 60% health, even with such a scuff fight, which is great. And yeah, 6-0 war. We ended up losing this war, but we are landed in high P1, which is nice.